Okay, we're at 5:30, so we'll get everybody kind of moving in, have everybody a seat. I'm going to take a peek out to see who else is coming in, and then we'll get underway. I think we're ready. We're going to go ahead and get underway. With a crowd like this, we're probably going to take about 4 hours, and kind of like a city council meeting, Mayor. Welcome tonight. Thank you for coming out. My name's Joe Nebb, City Manager for Roswell, and actually welcome back to our public forums that we're holding in person. Now, one of the things that we've tried to do, and I hate really talking behind a podium, and I hate having people come up to the microphone because I like it a little more friendly, but in order to reach out to those that were unable to make it, we are recording this session, and we'll be posting it out there. For those of you watching from home, you are welcome to type in questions that you may wish to have answered as well, too. We will try to address them. For those of you that have went through this before, since 2017, what we do is we'll take questions from the floor. I have a series of questions already received that we've done through SurveyMonkey, and so we prepared some slides. We have the experts in the room. Our professionals are here to help answer some of those other questions that may be surrounding the item that we're talking about. And so we'll log all this information together, and essentially what happens with the public forum is that why we take the questions early on is that there are always similar questions for similar issues. We want to lump them together and give you a more detailed response. And so that's the whole nature of how we're going to try to do this. And I'm going to invite Mayor Jennings up to welcome you and to say a few words of encouragement or wisdom. And Mayor, I'll turn over the microphone.
Well, welcome. I guess this is our first anti-COVID meeting that we've had. They had these Joe had these before, and I applaud them. These are some things that when you all just find out what you all want to discuss, what's important to you in your city, this is a good place to start. It's very open. And so please bring your ideas to us. I would just tell you we had an animal one the other night. It was very constructive and very positive. And about where we're going, we do have some problems at the animal shelter and ventilation and things like that. We do have some things you can't recirculate the air in the facility because of kennel cough. And and when you have kennel cough, it's real difficult to get rid of because it has a long incubation period, so you have to separate dogs for 8 or 10 days before, maybe even up to 20 before it shows up. So there are a lot of issues with that we're going to have to try to figure out how to deal with. But I think one of the issues that's a real hot button issue in our community is recycling. There are a number of people that bring that up. To do recycling and do it properly, we're going to have to probably build a building that to recycle just to separate the recycled products that we collect as we go through, and that's going to be something that's going to happen. So it's going to be a little more expensive than we thought, and it's going to take us a little time for the new council to get accustomed to seeing what we have as far as money to put together to do any recycling and what efforts we have. Our budget is extremely tight this year. It's extremely tight, and Councilman Corn is very aware of that. He was on the House Appropriations Committee, so he watches that money real close. So, but please bring forth your ideas. If you think of anything out there to make Roswell better, please bring it forward. There's one item I think that it must be brought up, and we've had a large number of children with guns, and we've had some real tragic stories in our community. Please, if you think of some ways that we can address children having guns, I mean, there's no reason for a 15 or 16-year-old child to have a pistol, carrying it around with them. There's no reason for that. And if there is, let's find out what the cause is and fix that cause. But please think about the ways that we can have to solve that, because it's not going to be because I tell them or almost anybody tells them. It's going to have to come from within themselves about we're not going to have guns and have greater respect for life than carrying guns. So that's just something. But thank you all for coming, and let us know and put Joe on the hot seat. Oh, okay. Put us all on the hot seat. It's more fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Okay, so we'll walk through some of this as well, too, those of you that have been here as well, too. We do have city councilors in the room as well, too. So note that we will be keeping track of all the items that we're going to talk about. If we don't know the answers right away, I guarantee you we will get an answer for those questions, and we will walk forward. The great thing about having our elected leadership in the room as well, too, is that they get to hear directly from you. And we can actually take that information back in order to help make things happen. For those of you that are in attendance, we do have cookies back there. My understanding is they make you happier when you have them. And no, okay. I tried the sugar-free ones, but they're not sugar-free either. But those of you at home, you get a virtual cookie. So I'm just saying. The other thing I wanted to make sure that if you all have an opportunity to pick up one of these little flyers here, this is our fall guide for the city of Roswell. These are all the activities that we have lined up out of all of our enrichment services and everything within the city. So please get one. If you're not here, you can find it online. And make sure you find a way to do that, because one of our topics will cover some of the stuff that's in this document. Okay, just a little housekeeping stuff. So we do have our 2022 forum topics. I have updated this as of today because some of the questions on our list, and actually one of the main things that the mayor says that we need to talk about is public safety, is police service, is how are we dealing with crime within the city. So I have actually removed one of the all-ward general issues, and we added a public safety forum later in the year in order to bring in the chief, bring in the officers, bring up everybody that's associated with public safety committee, and we're going to have a better conversation about public safety as a whole. But these are the topics that we will have throughout the year. We're going to talk about community development, economic development, public safety, foundations and their roles. This will be the first year that we get to reach out to some of our partners that we rely upon to make the services that we have happen. The Hispano Chamber and Library partnership that's evolved over the years, and one of the topics that the library is tackling right now is how to better serve the Hispanic population, and so that is something that they're working on. And then of course the homeless situation, and talking about what kind of solutions, what kind of efforts we've been making, and strides we've been making into that. So how this meeting will go is that we have received a series of questions through SurveyMonkey. We had 13 respondents, and we'll talk a little bit about those respondents. But we are also going to take questions from the floor. So if there's something that you wish to talk about, we're going to write it up here on the board. We'll lump it together. Hopefully I've got one of our professionals in the room that can talk about it. Otherwise, I can talk generally about almost everything, and then we'll go from there. And then at the end of this, I want to share with you how to access some of the information online. We have the website that has a ton of information out there for that. And then, of course, our YouTube channel where we've posted our older videos of money matters, of all these different types of activities. So I want to make sure you have that as well, too. Really quickly, before we take the questions from the floor, this was a couple questions that we had asked from the group online. How do you prefer to receive communication from the city? And we have, of course, if you run around the ring there, we have the website. 7.69% of the people receive it there. The city Facebook appears to be king at 46.15%. The Roswell Daily Record at 15%. The local radio stations at 7.7%. Text notifications and I can't read that number. It looks like it's about a 15%. And then the television is at 7.69. This is a very small grouping because of the people that had responded. But I will tell you, as we walk through this, we find that more and more our public is getting more information from social media and all of that information. So we tackle all the other ones that are on the side, whether it be the other websites, whether it be all the pages that we put out there, because we don't want to miss any part of our population for information. And so we'll talk to anybody any way that we can get there. And of course, all of our elected officials are available by phone, by email, one-on-one. And they want to make sure they hear from all their constituents for that. So this is how we'll track this information to make sure that we are outreaching to our community the proper way. The topics we intend to touch on tonight, a little bit on the crime, streets and engineering, recycling and trash, animal services, parks, the condition of, finances, youth, encouraging development, city employees and free city services, and city leader responsiveness, as well as we received a couple requests today, and so they're not on all the slides, but also on community development. I think there was a conversation about blighted and delinquent buildings and what we can do to take care of them. So we will try to tackle all of those topics tonight, and any that you put off from the floor or online as we move through this. The breakdown of the categories, you can see that there, or you can't see it there because some of the fonts are pretty small, but we break it down a little bit farther to know what's going on within the questions that are being asked. I would say that you can see the larger sections there, but when you walk through that, streets has always been a primary concern to everybody. Crime has been a primary concern. Recycling was a big one for this round, and so we've prepared a few slides to talk about recycling, and we'll walk through that. And then we'll just walk through all the questions that had been requested. So I'm not sure how we're going to get the questions from online up here, but all right, we'll jot them down and then we'll walk through them. In order to keep moving, I'm going to ask everybody, if you have a question, we'll take those first and we'll get them written up on the board so we can kind of make sure we're lumping them together. And then as we take the questions from the floor, we'll try to fit them in. So is there anybody out there that has something they want to talk about that may not already be up here on this list? Yes, sir.
Address the Spring River Golf.
The Spring River Golf Course. Okay. Yes, sir. Sign ordinance. Yes, sir.
Basically, economic development. The population of Roswell, 50,000, has been that way for 50 years. We used to have Gus Macker and I used to spike it, Clerk up, we have Volkswagen shows, Honda shows, all kinds of golf courses used to have an Nike tour. That's all gone by the wayside. I think we can bring that back to the community.
All right. You might have Economic Development and repairs to the library. Sorry, I didn't repeat that. Anything else that anybody wants to try to fit in right now? Good to go then. I'm going to go ahead and invite, and I apologize for not using the microphone. Hopefully everybody can hear me, but can I get Louis Nahar, Mr. Nahar, and Abraham Chaparro up here? Our city engineer and our solid waste director, and they're going to help with this first part of the conversation. When we get done with the section, gentlemen, you can kind of go hide again, but I appreciate this. Okay, and for those of you at home, all you have to do is put your questions into the comment box. It will be picked up. We have people watching online as well too, so just write your questions in there. We will get them up on the board. So if we do not respond to them tonight, we will get them responded to. Okay, let's see how this is going to go. We're using the microphones, of course, just because of the doing this online as well too. So here's there were 4 questions received on streets and engineering. First question was on Mission Arch at Berindo Sewers. Not enough to absorb all the water coming out from the neighborhood. Flooding should not be normal. We had a question about use of blowers on business property. They just blow all the grass into the street. This makes the streets unsafe, clogs the drains. This should not be allowed. Landscapers, maintenance should take and bag all of the cuttings. They should not be allowed to blow the debris into the street and make it a problem for someone else. We have notification of road closures by text and the simultaneous closure of multiple thoroughfares for construction. So these are the ones that we will try to respond to. And we have no additionals from there. So let's walk through this. And I asked these 2 gentlemen on at least the streets, and I asked Mr. Nahar on the streets and engineering for some responses on this. So we will walk through those responses, and then I'll let Mr. Nahar kind of close that gap with us as well too, if there's any further questions on that. So let's talk about stormwater management first off and everything. Roswell works closely with Chavez County and the Flood Control Commission. We work diligently with them in order to reduce the impact of flooding in our community. What we are seeing is that we're seeing more flooding. We're receiving more rain, and so we're seeing more flooding based upon that. But Roswell requires that the stormwater facilities to be designed to handle a 1-year event. FEMA now calls that a 1% event. And that's supposed to mean that it is a rain that we would see once in every 100 years. Note that the last 2 rains that we had that caused some flooding, I believe they were close to a 500-year event, and we had 2 of them almost back to back. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean that we've already had our quota or anything. We're going to end up having more of that. So when I asked Mr. Nahar, within our code and everything, all of our development must include adequate provision for storm and floodwater runoff channels and basins. The stormwater drainage system has to be separate than the sanitary sewer system. We have to remove that gray water from the dirty water and treat it accordingly. In our code, storm drainage shall be accommodated in the streets and gutters unless adopted standards and specifications would indicate otherwise. So I'll let Mr. Nahar cover a little bit about how we utilize the streets for that stormwater conveyance and what we're doing with that. Where storm sewers are required, the cost may, at the option of the city, be shared between the city and the Roswell and the applicant where it is determined that off-site drainage is served. One of the items that was on the last city council meeting was talking about some drainage in an area where there was a development going, and the request from the developer was for additional land to do more of a regional center. They're going to take care of their costs that are associated to their development, and they're providing us land so that we can help in a regional fashion. So I'm going to let Mr. Nahar cover a little bit more of that detail, and hopefully we can answer some of those questions that you may have.
Let me start with the development part of it. The code that we have right now is that when you develop your property, a new development, your drainage flow leaving the property or the drainage going through the property before development is measured and calculated. And after development, you cannot make it any more intense. So whatever the inflow is before you start has to equal the flow when you develop it. So if you can think about it, by the time you put a roof, a building, parking lot, sidewalk, you now have impervious soil. Impervious, so the soil is no longer there. Now you have impervious material. So you are going to increase the drainage running off. You are going to shorten the time of concentration. And that's why you see all these developments with a detention pond, because they're catching the flow, not to hold the flow, but to slow it down so it leaves the property or goes through the property at the same rate as it was before the development was. As far as for storm drains, all of you that have been around here, we live in the desert. We do have storm drains. The majority of it are streets. And you can see what I'm talking about as you drive any street, you'll get to an intersection and you'll see a little dip. All those little dips, especially in the downtown area, are purposely put because they're put there to capture the rain from the side streets and keep it going the direction. Generally, we're headed towards the river. We have the Hondo River, we have the Spring River, and it's all headed towards the east at some point to catch to the Pecos River. So we do have storm drains. And yes, when it rains, the streets do carry all the flow because that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to carry all the flow. Very few storm drain systems that we have, very few arroyos that we have to carry the flow. So again, Joe's correct. We designed for the 100-year event, or the 1% as FEMA's calling it now. And we've had over 100-year events, Memorial Weekend last year, Labor Day weekend last year, and June 26th this year. So you have 3 plus 100-year events in the span of less than a year. So those are the ones that are causing the major problems.
Thank you,
Joe.
Louis. I think that's the thing that everybody gets very curious about is why are the streets flooded? Why is there water all over the place? Our goal, of course, is to not allow that water ever to enter into a home. And if it enters on the property, it's one thing, but it's to keep it out of the home, and that's why we utilize all 390 miles of streets as a conveyance system to move this water around as well too. So
That is correct. And one of our specs that we have on the building side is that your finished floor elevation for a new home or structure is supposed to be a minimum of 1 foot above the highest top of curb on your frontage. And a lot of times I'm called out to waters coming into my house or into my garage, and when I get there and look, if the garage or the house or the structure is below the street or less than a foot above the top of the curb, most of the time there's very little I can do to help you. My recommendation then is they put up header curbs or landscaping or something to divert the water that's coming down the streets when we do have those plus 100-year events.
Thank you. And we have Mr. Mavers in the room. He's our community development director. And of course, one of the things that we're tackling even on that side is providing that detail and that justification within our plans. We didn't watch it as closely. It was almost we would go out and check the as-built to make sure that it was built properly. Now we're trying to make sure that the developer or the builder or whoever's doing the improvement on their property has already done that work and they know it's coming, so that we don't get caught after the fact with building something that then doesn't match.
Yes, sir, and that's part of the building permit requirement now, that they show their drainage and their floor elevations.
But this has been tough for some of our local contractors because they weren't used to this adjustment, but it is for everybody's protection to do that. I think what we have to always try to do better is try to explain that in a better fashion so that everybody understands it. It's not that we want to make it harder for anybody. We just want everybody to be a little bit safer. So next item on this is the sweeping litter into the gutters. I figured I would start with just putting the city code up there. that says, "No person shall sweep into or deposit into any gutter, street, or other public or private place within the city the accumulation of litter from any building or lot, from any public or private sidewalk or driveway. Persons owning or occupying property shall keep the sidewalk or driveways abutting their premises clean and free of litter. And then no person shall blow leaves and clippings into the gutter." If it happens, it's an ordinance violation. The challenge is catching those that are not doing it correctly. The city of Roswell will generally err more often than not on an educational side and assume that that individual was not aware that we had an ordinance like this out there. And we will go make that contact. The police department does it the same way. We call it welfare checks. We go and check and see what's happening at the property and everything else. But in this case, sweeping litter, putting stuff into the streets is not safe, and it does cause issues that could attribute later on as well too. And so what I would ask, and we'll talk about this at the end, but I'm going to mention the Fix-It form more than once tonight, and I'll show you exactly where to find it on our website. That Fix-It form works for everything. If you don't want to contact an elected official directly, you can use the Fix-It form. It will be forwarded to them. If you have an issue or a question of anything, the Fix-It form puts a digital signature on it that comes through the system, and it goes through, and then it gets associated to the department so that you get a response. If you want to do it anonymously, you can do that, but when it's anonymous, we can't get a response back to you as to what we discovered. So we'll talk a lot about the Fix-It form throughout this conversation for future reference. The last couple items on here, I just threw them up there. I don't believe I put them in as a slide, but the notification of road closures by text, we can explore that possibility. I guess the good thing is that we don't have temporary road closures very often. They're generally closed for a little bit of time because we're either doing a mill and fill, we do large sections, and so we can try to do that by text in order to do that. But I think that through engineering and public affairs, we're trying to put out as much notification as we can with all of those issues ahead of the time. And with that, I don't know if you have anything you want to add, Lewis?
Just want to add that when we do all our construction projects, I always contact Todd, our public information officer, and he does all the press releases. We require the contractors to let us know so we can put it out a minimum of 48 hours before we do a closure. And even when we have a water main break, a sewer main break, or something like that, we do contact Todd, and we put it out, and he puts it out on our social page and also the press release to the newspapers and news media.
And if I can interrupt this show for just a second, if you have a cell phone, if you can turn the ringer down, if you need to be on your cell phone, if you can kind of move out of the space as well too, because others, I think it's interfering a little bit with hearing and such like that. So please be respectful of that if you can, and kind of move to the side if you're able to do that. Tom, you threw your hand up there, bud.
Yeah, if you look at the Albuquerque paper, they publish all the public works. They put a map of what's going to happen, tell you the dates when it's going to happen, the project, and they put that in the paper. The State Department of Transportation does the same thing. I don't know why it's not being done here. I've asked for it before, but it never has been done. I think it should be done. What's going on? And I have property on Garden, and Garden has been closed for the last 4 years, on and off. It's been horrendous to have a business on Garden because of the interruption.
Thank you. I'll tell you, I think we can do that fairly simply. We do have a dashboard out on our website, and Lewis is well aware of what projects we plan on doing for the year. The council's all well aware. Publishing something in the newspaper so that everybody can kind of get that early view from the season starting, right? And I'm assuming that's how they walk through that. They give the thing. I think we could put together a piece like that.
We have the dashboard, the project dashboard is on the website. We update it every month. And I can see where Tom's coming from, and that's one of the things that we're working with on our GIS, is to try to come up with a simple GIS map that we could change very easily, and we could set up a page, I guess, for traffic updates reviews. But as Mr. Neb said, most of my traffic road closures are for some duration. The short ones are probably a couple of weeks.
And I think the good thing about that is it's one notice saying, here's where you're going to possibly run into a street closure. We provide that information to the fire department and the police department as well, because if we have to respond to a call, they need to know exactly how to get to that neighborhood that may be negatively affected by the closure. And that'll bring me into the last item here, the simultaneous closure of multiple thoroughfares for construction. We definitely do not like to close down thoroughfares, but I think you explained it very well today, and I'm going to let you cover that.
I'm going to give two examples, and Garden and Atkinson are two of the primary examples. We were working on Atkinson. We had to stop because we had to wait on water utility parts. At the same time, we had a water leak at Garden and Cherry, so we were having to repair that because when it's a 36-inch water line is leaking, we have to address it. We also had sewer repairs that needed replacing. We replaced the entire sewer line from 4th Street to where the Saddle Barn's at, the old Glovers. So we've had some major utility breaks on both Atkinson and Garden that I'm not too good at planning utility breaks, but we had the road projects. The sewer break on North Garden happened 2 days before we were going to start our garden mill and fill, so we had to stop. Everything gets rescheduled. Anybody that's done any shopping or ordered parts for anything, you know that getting parts for anything now takes forever. So that added to our delays and having streets closed longer than we anticipated, and 2 streets closed at the same time. My other example is we were working on Sunset and McGaffey, and we had I'm going to call it a sinkhole, or a very pavement deficiency failed right there at South Union and Albuquerque. We had to close off the inside lanes, and to fix it, we had to go across the whole road to fix it, and we had to close South Union. Again, you have to respond from a safety point of view when you have a road failure, and we had Union closed at the same time, and we had Sunset closed at the same time, and McGaffey. We did provide detour signings, and we're very fortunate that most of our detours, you just have to go around a couple of streets, but that just happens in this kind of business, that road failures, utility failures, and we have to respond to them. That's the first thing that we have to do, respond. We apologize for any inconvenience. I apologize for all the inconvenience that these failures have had, but we respond to them the best that we can. Again, as soon as it happens, we contacted Todd, and there was press releases and social media releases issued.
And yes, sir.
You know, Louis, I know on 1202 Camino Real, when they did Sunset and McGaffey out there, were paving all that, I had 3 different complaints about those people not being able to get out of their house. And one of them, they closed it after after a rain, and the people got stuck in because there wasn't any other road out. And so we need to give some people a little more notice about when they're going to close the road. So there needs to be a better plan somehow, because that same family got 3 times
On the McGaffey project, as well as the Atkinson project and the Garden project, the contractors hand-delivered flyers to every residence before the closures. And right now in Atkinson, we're doing face-to-face knocking on doors before we're working right now on water lines on both sides of the road. So I don't understand what happened to Camino Real. I know we have a counselor that lives there, and my own son lives across the street from my counselor, and my son is kind of like his dad. He's grumpy, but he didn't complain, so.
They live on the 1100 block, 1200 block is where you have your problem.
Okay.
There's 2 exits off 1100. There's no exit, only 1 exit off 1200.
Okay. But I know that they should have got flyers, but that's what I'm trying to do with all my contractors, that we have to talk to the businesses, we have to talk to the residences, and I'm requiring them that for the longer closures, that we hand out flyers as well as what we do with our press releases. But we like to do that personal touch of giving out a flyer.
You know, and Louis, and I know that our standard for our contractors is to not block for too long within that, without notification.
Without notification, and yes, we'll have a closure, but we still will provide access for your business, and we still provide access for your residents, and we also notify the bus companies. We hand deliver flyers to the bus companies, and my guy goes and talks to the bus companies to make sure that they know, especially now the school started, that, hey, we're gonna have a closure, deal with your students, and they'll have to go maybe another block this way, but we try the best we can.
So Mayor, there may have been a disconnect between what the contractor was supposed to be having the conversation with our neighbors in that area, and so if we can be made aware of those, we can help make sure those adjustments are made. Even when they're milling, filling across there, they're only going to close that area down for a certain length of time until that stuff gets hardened up enough where they can get back in and out. And so we try not to keep anybody out of there for too long, just as long as it has to be in order to get the work done. I'm going to jump back, because the good thing about having all of my professionals in here as well too is that we do have a text sign up on our website, and you can sign up for text messages. I believe it would be a very simple thing to add road closures into our text messaging system. It is called Notify Me on our website. And so you need to log on. We don't want to send you stuff that you don't want to see, but if you want to log on, Notify Me will take care of that, and we should be able to add. What will happen is that as Louis does it with Todd, and our public information is anyway already, we'll just put that into that system, that as our notification goes out that we're having a road closure, water main break, all those different items, we will put them out onto the Notify Me. So if you like to get those text messages, please sign up for that as well too. Louis, the hot seat is over. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
All right. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one, recycling and trash. As you can see, we had 3, 4, 5, 6 different comments on this in our code. I will tell you that all the way through the election, this was one of the initiatives of the mayor, and he really wanted us to find a way to bring it back and make it work better than it did before. And so recycling, I've got a few slides on that, and I have Mr. Chaparro up here in order to help walk through what we've been doing as a city for this, to try to find out how to do it. The first question, though, of course, up there is the rollout trash cans at businesses. I believe this came through as a complaint that they can't be stored inside, and I don't want to leave it out the night before to be scattered. I'm definitely not getting up 2 hours early to go into town to take out my trash. And so we are trying to work with our businesses to make sure that the size of the container meets what their needs are. And so I'm assuming these are the 90-gallon containers, and so some businesses don't generate enough to make one of the big 300s, and so rather than to charge them for a 300, we bring them to a smaller one that actually can do that. And I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, but you're working with everybody I know in order to try to make that fit.
So possibly right now, the city of Roswell, before I start, my name's Abraham Chaparro, Solid Waste Director for the city. Currently, we have 20 businesses in the city of Roswell that utilize the 90-gallon containers. Some of those 90-gallon containers, the small ones you roll out, we utilize them for the convenience and accessibility to the building as well. So we want to minimize our exposure within the private property of the business. So we look at their needs, we look at their frequency, how much garbage they generate, we try to find the appropriate receptacle for the business. And sometimes a 96-gallon container is the best option at that point, sometimes it's not. So we take them on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. We're going to drop down because we've got a few slides on the recycling to talk about exactly how we got to today and where we're trying to go. But the trash in the alleys. When there is a lid in the alley trash bin, we should be able to close the lid and not put trash there that does not fit into the trash receptacles. As I read this, and again, I'm not sure of the context within that, but it sounds to me like in that neighborhood for the trash cans with the lids, we have people that are overfilling our trash containers, and we will pick up anything that's dumped, whether it fits into the trash can or not.
So what we utilize is our automated trash collection trucks as they go through the alley. When we have containers, 300-gallon containers that are overflowed, we actually call them snow cones because they're overfilling. So if we service them in the alley and we're dropping significant debris, we'll contact the bulk trash team to come in behind them and pick up as much as they can all the way down the alley. And again, like Joe was saying, sometimes we utilize this as an educational purposes for that neighborhood. We send out flyers. We try to make contact with the residents, say, hey, look, utilize what you can in the garbage can. It should stay within the garbage can. We provide in the ordinance. And at the same time, we try to kind of educate them. Hey, look, we have different services at the landfill that you can utilize. If you have extra trash, bring it out to us. Utilize your water bill. You'll be able to dump for free once a month. At the same time, we try to work with them. Again, some of my guys are running pretty quick, pretty fast, but we are doing a better job in picking up that garbage as we drop it and notifying the appropriate people.
Okay, and yes, sir. If I could ask you, because the people online really they can't hear, so if you could come to the microphone, I'm sorry, but that way they can all keep up. I don't mind repeating it either, but I think that the ones online would like to hear from.
Well, one of the problems we have with overfilling the trash cans is people are coming from elsewhere and putting their stuff in
Yes,
those
sir.
trash cans too. That makes it a little difficult for the residents to dispose of their trash. We've been getting we get several pickups a week, which is nice. But these people are taking advantage of those cans and going down the alleys and filling them up. And not to be critical of the guys who are doing the pickups, but they're destroying some of our cans too. My can is covered, it's behind my house. I go out there and I clean up all the mess that's left behind as they pick up and leave stuff strewn about. That's from the pickups. Sometimes that double lid can is knocked over. I've gone out and repaired the lid several times because they're almost ripping them off. And that's something that needs to be addressed, I think. They need to be a little more careful how they handle those things.
Some of the things when what you're talking about, exactly what we're doing, the pressure on the arm, how it closes too much or it's too open, and also the age of the can. So you lose that dexterity in the can as well.
Yeah.
So what happens if the pressure's too much and closes, it'll destroy the can. So we're working and adjusting those arms as we go, and we're trying to get all the feedback from the drivers when they come back. Don't let the front office staff know, say, hey, look, this alley needs a new 300. I destroyed it or I smashed it. We try to get all that feedback and trying to get people out there to replace them as soon as we can.
Yeah, I know that can was replaced just last year, so it's not really old. So that was one of the things I was thinking, how they could destroy it so quick.
If you want to, I got my card with me. If you want to meet afterwards, I'll be glad to look at your neighborhood and we can find out what's going on and see what truck is servicing you.
Sure.
And we can make the adjustments to that truck.
I'd be glad to. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. And he brings up a point that's very difficult to figure out how to resolve. Almost the same thing as blowing grass into the street. It is against our code to do that. I'm not sure if everybody's aware that the trash that goes into those dumpsters is supposed to be bagged and tied. That's in our code right now too, and that would help stop some of the blowing around. The individuals, there is one 300-gallon trash canner per 4 homes within the alleyways as well too. That's where we try to hold it at. And so we want those 4 homes to have the access to that. Another area that I know gets very frustrating is when somebody hires a contractor that's doing work on their house and they don't want to take it to the dump, they will put it into the alleyway. Now our goal, our job is to pick that up. And that's what we will do. We do want to try to caution all of them. And I think my biggest fear with a contractor, if that contractor is charging you to haul the material to the dump and then puts it in one of our alleys and lets us pick it up, that's wrong. And I think that's where I get really irritated about that, is that I can understand if they didn't charge you for it or something, but the product that gets placed into the alley for the grappler or for the trash service is supposed to be for that resident, their family, those pieces that are coming out of that. And so I just want to say that because it's very difficult to catch them. We do have a new system out with our solid waste software as well too for illegal dumping. So if we have areas where there are empty lots that have not had a house built on them yet, and over time we find individuals that drive through and they decide to unload right there on that property. We have the ability now to find out those hot spot areas and then try to make those adjustments. Again, and the chief wasn't able to make it here tonight, so we won't talk too deeply about crime or anything, and we have our own meeting for that. But the thing is that any detail or information that you can find out, whether you have a name tag on the truck for the contractor, the license plate, we will make contact with that individual, that company, and say, do you understand what you're doing to our community or on our residents? So want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. That next item on there, and we'll build into that, call the city rather to pick up extra tree limbs, etc. Within our code as well too, you are always welcome to call, and that will help us go out probably a little bit quicker right now. I'm going to let Abraham cover a little bit about our challenges with our grappler service and our equipment, and where we're headed with that to try to get back ahead of that, because we want to do grappler service at least once a month, and if we get to it, we want to get to two 2 times a month in order to get those extra mattresses, those extra couches. I think our mattress stores make a lot of money, Mayor, because it's like there's mattresses all over the place, so there's people buying them all the time. But we want to get that product out there. We also believe within our whole crime strategy with the Our Town philosophy and everything, we believe if we leave these alleyways dirty, it's going to affect the psyche of our neighborhoods. And if it affects our psyche of our neighborhoods, then we have more people that don't care. And so we want to make sure that we are getting that picked up in a fairly quick fashion, because I guess chaos breeds chaos essentially is the best way to say that. So we don't clean up that alleyway, it just creates more. And so the whole plan is to get there. But Abraham, can you talk a little bit about our challenges and how we're going to get out of it?
Some of the challenges we have now is the equipment that we're utilizing 5 to even 6 days a week. We're running them 8 to 10 hours a day. Some of that equipment is getting older, it's getting beat up pretty bad, and it's in need of repair. So that's one of our challenges. We're fully staffed on the grapple side. Having 5 to 6 trucks, grapple trucks, running consistently every week is a very big challenge right now for our fleet, our new fleet, or our fleet manager, and also our mechanics that are keeping those trucks up and running. That's some of the challenges. And some of the other challenges that we have is, even if as we go through and we service these alleys, as soon as we leave, people come out and fill up the alley again. So when we run that route, we don't come back for 2-3 weeks. That's literally within hours that we finish cleaning an alley, it gets filled up again, or somebody will drive by and unload an entire trailer all the way down. So those are some challenges, kind of from a cultural standpoint, something that the city has always been used to. Hey, the city will pick it up, just throw it out on the street and they'll come get it. So again, we try to look at the community outreach. We try to make it a learning opportunity, talk to the neighborhood. We'll blanket entire neighborhoods, give them flyers. Hey, work with us. Let's work together so we can curb this challenge. If you see somebody out there dumping, don't engage them. Hey, notify us. Get a hold of code enforcement and work with us. The solid waste department works very closely with code enforcement. And as Joe was alluding to, we do have an app that we use now for beta testing. So what we're doing is we're capturing all that data. We're creating heat maps so we can track the majority of the areas where we see a lot of illegal dumping, and we can target our marketing or targeting our outreach in those specific areas versus the entire city. We'll know where we got to go talk to, which wards they are, who do we got to engage. Let's get that taken care of. And also, we do want to reach out to some of the either elementary schools or middle schools, kind of educate them on the illegal dumping, because that affects every single one of us that's in this room.
All right, thank you. And of course, the slide up here gives you just a little bit of statistics on our businesses and how we're operating with those containers. So we have 20 out of 2,240 businesses using the 96-gallon containers. So we do offer that to everybody. So, and we try to work with everybody in order to get that there. The smaller the container, the less expense to our businesses. So. Okay, I'm going to jump into the recycling and the program. We're going to talk a little bit about the previous recycling program and what has happened over the time since its inception. I believe it was a really good thing that when it happened and how it walked through. But I think over time it kind of got out of its box or whatever we want to call that. So it was more, essentially we had some 40-yard dumpsters out there that we would pick up. You could separate your material within those containers. We would take it out to the landfill into a building. We would dump it into that building, separate it out one more time. We would bale it and then ship it off. And so that was our process that worked. I believe it worked really well up until about 2018. When the market changed nationwide, and that's when China quit taking recyclable materials from the U.S., and so there was no market left in order to move it away. So getting these bales out to somebody that can actually reutilize that stuff became a lot more difficult for that. In our reviews, and this seems to happen over time every once in a while too, is that our state of New Mexico landfill permit did not allow for the type of function that we had, so we have to shift the model anyway if we're going to stay in compliance with the state. This one's a little bit frustrating. It may feel good to put the stuff into the dumpster, but over 50% of the containers were contaminated, which meant we couldn't even separate it from the material, and that means it goes into the landfill as well. And so it took a lot more time in order to segregate and all of that happening. The condition, and I'm going to show you just a few pictures of how, and it's probably a good thing because there were a lot of people utilizing recycling, but it is inundating our system and causing other kind of issues, of safety issues as well too. So really quickly, this was some pictures back from the building as they were trying to separate and everything. I would say that the product we were receiving was faster than we could get it back out and get it baled and out. That's what was happening within there. All of those bags that are in the middle picture there, that's all shredded paper. We have to remove all the plastic off of the shredded paper and then put the paper into the paper pile. The cans and the picture on the left is that the commingled stuff that most of that ends up being contaminated. And then, of course, all of that cardboard and everything, trying to break it down, trying to get it into a baler and get it utilized. It became very difficult in order to walk through that process. What are the steps doing? We went through a couple different ways. Once we closed off the drop-off centers, the city entered into a franchise agreement with a private company. They lasted almost a year because they could not get enough client base in order to make it profitable enough for them to go out. I think what I really liked about that contract, it was curbside, and you paid a little bit more if you commingled, or you paid a little bit less if you separated it out. And it was a really nice system, but because we couldn't get enough of our customer base on there, we couldn't get that done. So I'm going to let Abraham walk through the last three items there, because I know you've been doing a lot of research to try to figure out how we would bring this back and how we could actually introduce a concept to the mayor and council in order to try to bring this back. So
what some of the things that we did was we wanted to see on the high end, high efficiency, a really good city that's really doing really well. City of Phoenix, their recycling program is probably a flagship for the southwest of the country. So what they generate, they have a multi-million-dollar facility how they sort the equipment. But a couple of things that we did gather from it is that there's basic equipment that you need to start sorting out your trash. And the better we sort out the trash, the easier for us to process. Some of the challenges that City of Phoenix has is that they need to broker their recyclables worldwide. They don't broker it in the United States. You're talking Brazil, China, South Korea. It goes all over the place, but they have a third-party broker that brokers all over the world, and that price is constantly fluctuating. City of Phoenix generates a significant amount of recyclable material that they can ship out. One of their biggest clients for cardboard was Mexico, actually. So dealing with them, talking to them, showing them, hey, look, what's the basic things that we can utilize so we can start up the program again. The consistent message that I get from Phoenix and some of our recycling consultants have talked to is, let's take baby steps. Let's introduce this slowly. Let's work it at a slow-paced process so we can see what works and what doesn't work for City of Roswell. Next, you have Lubbock up there. Lubbock just approved a MRF. It's a material recovery facility. They're in the infancy of building it. I've already made some contacts. I'm just waiting to catch the director and go over there and talk to her. They're going to be receiving a lot of the materials. So if we have a viable solution, someone's going to receive our materials, we can process it here, or we can transport it. But again, it's in its infancy. So also talking to recycling consultants, they're telling us the same thing. We want to start incrementally, we want to start slow, then we want to gather steam as we go. The market right now for recyclable materials to actually generate money, it's medium range, it's low to medium range right now. Recycling is not a profitable or sustainable program where the city's going to generate any kind of money at all. It's more of a, hey, I'm doing my part for the landfill, I'm doing my part for the city. A lot of the recyclable materials too, they don't really take up a lot of space in our landfills. The big money makers that I get from Phoenix is cardboard and plastics. A lot of our aluminum here, some of those aluminum cans, there's a lot of tin cans in there. Tin cans, you have to separate those by hand. And going back to that picture Joe was showing you, there was one individual that sorted out all 7 of those roll-off containers. One individual was doing it by hand. And he had waiters all the way up to here. So when I first stepped in about 2 years ago and I seen this, I was like, this is not going to work. And then as he's going, it's just piling up, and never ending. So when they generate enough piles, we'd have to pay contractors to come and pick it up. So when they come pick up our aluminum bales, or they come pick up our cardboard or plastic, we ended up paying them more money just to come get it, and we wouldn't generate a profit at all. But they would have to stockpile for 6, 7, 8, 9 months before we had enough to fill a trailer. So it definitely has some serious challenges here going forward, but we are looking at solutions. We are collaborating with other cities and see how we can reintroduce that to the city and see what works best for us in our current budget and our current market.
Yeah, thank you. And, and I know that the landfill actually likes paper and cardboard because it breaks down so quickly and so easily. And that breakdown of that carbon actually helps break down the other materials. Mm-hmm. The things that landfills don't like are the plastics. And those are the things that we have to try to figure out. And now that they have 6 different types of plastics, trying to figure out exactly which plastic goes where and which one can be reused and everything, it becomes a very challenging thing. And that, I believe that's where we kind of stopped with that information. I know that this is an initiative of our elected officials. We will be tackling this thing as we move through the year to try to figure out that model that's going to work. One of the things I know that Abraham will be working on, and this really helps, I think, with our financial individuals as well, too. We just got done building a new cell out there at the landfill in order to keep our trash going. We know what those costs are. Now we can compare the cost of building another cell because we fill up quicker because of the recycling as well too. So we'll be able to get very good data for the city council in order to consider what that best option is going to be. So thank you, Abraham. Oh, we have a question from the floor. And if you can repeat the question. Can't hear you. Yeah.
Have deposits of aluminum cans been considered? So we do look at that. Some of the steel and some of the aluminum that we have in landfill, we do collect it, we do process it. When they had the recycling program, the aluminum cans did generate some revenue. We have Roswell Recycle. We stack them up. Roswell Recycle will come and pick them up. Actually, Roswell Recycle comes and picks up all of our steel as well, and that does generate some revenue. It does work out good for us. That's something what I would encourage people that I talk to now is gather your cans, recycle them. When you have enough, you can recycle them yourself, and you can introduce that profit right into your own house in your own home. So that's an option as well.
Yeah, and I would say that on that question, if it's like a citywide deposit for aluminum, I believe that is better handled at the state level and then instituted at our level as well too. I just know that the state of Michigan has a 5 cents on every can, every bottle, and it works very well when it's in that type of a structure. If it's just a city, it doesn't work as well. So, thank you, Abraham. I'm gonna let Mr. Matthews take your place. So. Okay, we're going to keep moving. Animal services, animal care in Roswell. Mayor Jennings spoke a little bit about a meeting that we had just Tuesday, talking about some of the challenges we have with our animal shelter, our collection of animals and such like that. So really, I've got 3 slides up there, and I wanted Mr. Matthews up here to maybe share a little more insight, because he's been working with animal control for a number of years, knows the system in and out, knows what our challenges are, knows where we can kind of help with that. But I just took about 3 slides off of what happened on Tuesday, just to let everybody know what some of our challenges are. This is our shelter space, and we have 98 dog kennels. We have 54 cat kennels. The challenge we have is that we can see upwards of 10 to 12 new animals in that facility every day, which means we inundate the system there. We know that part of the problem is that we have people that are uncaring of their pets, well, they're not pets, I guess, because they turn them over for strays and everything, and they put it in a really bad predicament where our rescues, our fosters that are already inundated with a number of other critters that they're trying to find their forever homes. It's just a system that does not work well. Our challenge is that we need to get the animals out of there fairly quickly, because the longer an animal stays in there, there's a lot of different problems that could happen. So we really want to get these animals out and headed toward their forever home. We also know that based upon what we have to do for cleaning and everything, is that at 90% capacity for each one of these classifications underneath there, we need to make sure that we keep that area open, because as we clean, we have to move those animals from one enclosure to another in order to get that clean. So this is our challenge with the shelter space. The software I want to make sure that everybody is aware of that's happening is 24petconnect.com. And 24petconnect.com, after an hour that an animal is into intake, it is listed up there. It has its picture. It has all the data that is necessary in order to help adoptions or the rescues figure out what they can do with that. The next slide I'll show you, and then I'll tell you why this software is going to be very, very important, because we want to try to get these animals out quicker. I think the challenge we have still with the rescues a little bit is that most of the rescue groups that are outside of the state that a lot of these animals go to really want to know how the animal will deal with other animals, because they're going to try to move them up there, and then they're going to take them from their fosters and try to put them out. And then also just the health of those animals as well too. But if everybody will start using 24 Pet Connect, even if you have a lost pet, what it does, and this is what they described it on Tuesday, is that if you put in the description of your animal, even if you get the breed wrong, maybe the off color, it will get you close, and it'll give you a listing of about 6 different animals. If it's even close, please come in, and we'll make sure that the animal is taken for you. Here's the challenge we have in the timeline. Within our city code, our responsibilities is that we give 4 days for any animal that comes into the shelter for an owner to redeem. We don't have that happen very often, but if it does happen, it's there. Once an animal is tagged, we really want it out in 48 hours, but in Roswell, we are taking in animals from all throughout Chaves County. We help Lake Arthur, Dexter, Hagerman. We are the only city-owned shelter within Chaves County that is helping pull these animals together. So as we look at 24 Pet Connect, we are working with all of those agencies in order to get there. But after that 4-day window is open, please help us get those animals out and get them to their forever homes. We found ours. Bianca's a member of our family now. So, but Mike, I don't know if there's anything else to add to this. Turn it on. Yeah.
I would just add that it was refreshing to see the amount of people that showed up on Tuesday night that is concerned about this issue, because that speaks volumes. When the community comes together and they're focused on the issue, then it's a whole lot easier to get the group together. As long as we do it respectful and respect each other, we're going to move further a lot faster. We know the issues, or have already identified some of the issues that was concerns for them. We can do a better job on our side on taking photographs of those pets that go on that 24 Pet Connect. So if you're taking a photograph of the top of a dog's head, well, that's not a good photograph. If there's a family sitting at home trying to find their dog that got loose, they may not recognize the top of that head. So taking better photographs and getting the better photographs on there. Having more discussions. We've had our first meeting prior to our meeting on Tuesday. I think it was Monday mornings when we had our meeting with Dexter Hagerman, Lake Arthur, Chaves County, about, hey, this is a county-wide problem. We need you at the table. We need you a part of this discussion and a part of the solution. So that was the first time we'd met with those group, and they were very receptive to the discussion. So I'm expecting some good things going forward with our relationships with those entities down in the valley and Chaves County. But like I said, I'm pleased with the direction. We've already scheduled another meeting in the end of September with the rescue groups and concerned citizens with this issue. I am personally meeting with one of the rescue groups tomorrow afternoon to further that discussion because they wanted to do it privately. So I'm going to meet with them tomorrow afternoon and find out what all the concerns are there. And we have to realize we got to meet somewhere in the middle as the answer to this. The city government does not have the answer to all our problems, but with the city's help and the community's help, we can get that balance and find a solution that works well for everybody in the community. So we're going to strive to do that until we get to that answer.
And if you don't know Mr. Jim Burris, he is our Special Service Director. He has a number of departments underneath his overwatch and everything, and animal control is one of them as well too. I actually brought you up for the next item too, but anything you want to add to the animal control thing?
Well, just some of the concerns we were told about this week. We have been studying all our airflows, and we've increased officer training, and so we're happy with that. We're going to keep working on that.
So the training in the facility, those concerns that have been brought up. Yes, sir.
Joe, and I'll just add, Jim just brought it up. He just told me as we were coming, we've had an issue with the smell in that place for a number of years. We have a new facility maintenance director who's phenomenal. And I've given him several tasks over the last few months that other people couldn't figure out. This guy has really figured them out. I believe he may have figured that problem out this afternoon. So I'm expecting a lot nicer atmosphere when you walk in the building at Animal Control in the very near future, as it affects your nose.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to keep moving on. Mike, you're allowed. And Jim gets to stay in the hot seat for just a little bit. We received these two questions or comments today, and that was on the condition of the parks. Our parks are pretty sad, and our park cleanups. I put up there because I wanted everybody to understand exactly what is in our park system. 674 acres of dedicated parkland. Each one of them, that spreadsheet that you can't read everything on there, talks about what type of equipment is in there, what type, whether it has a playground, whether it has a ball field, whether it has shelters, picnic
soccer,
tables,
soccer,
all of that.
Everything.
I guess when I look at the first one, and this is the hard part about asking for these questions beforehand. I don't have the context as to our parks being sad. How? I know that we have, where I believe we're almost fully staffed with all of our people out there. We've divided up our parks. We have essentially 5 crews that are going through there, taking care of different areas for that. I will tell you, they're a committed bunch.
Oh yeah, they own their work, and I'm very proud of the new guys we have. They don't stop. You know, we're also asked to do other projects also. So. Besides the parks, we just left the golf course and we're headed to the cemetery probably next week.
It may be that the pretty sad is that we have old equipment in there. It may not be that we don't have enough equipment. That's where I'm going to mention again, I told you I'd mention it more than once, the fix-it form. If you have an area that you believe is not being taken care of properly, whether it be worn out equipment, whether it be the grass or the goat's heads, which I hate as well. But if we have those problems out there, please put it through a fix-it form. I'll guarantee you that this crew underneath Mr. Burris will take care of those issues. We just need to know about them. They are out there, they are in every park every week, but their focus may be on whatever else that they're doing, whether it be picking up the trash, whether it be doing any of that stuff. So,
Well, right now I can tell you we'll be looking for tree limbs here pretty soon, the storms that are coming up, and we'll be hauling those away, and we help cut up trees that fall into the roads. But surveying the parks today, they were beautiful. We're getting caught up with some things after the rain, and you'll notice that besides picking up the trash every morning out of the parks, now they're starting to edge everything. So everything looks nice and clean. So I do appreciate the hard work that they're doing. However, if someone has something that they think we ought to tighten up on, just get a hold of our department or do it, fix it for them, and we'll just go take care of it.
let me make this a call to arms as well too, and this ties into the park cleanups. This is all everybody's community, not just the cities. It's everybody's community. We appreciate help. There is a park out at the Air Center, I think it's the Reichman Park, that Church on the Move sends a crew out there every week to help pick up the trash, help the water, help do whatever they can out there. They've adopted that park. I want to call to arms for everybody watching and everything else. Help us make the community better. We'll get out there and do that. If you put it in and fix it for them, if we know that it needs to be repaired, we'll do that kind of work in a heartbeat. But Roswell, what I like about Roswell is a very giving community, and there are people out there giving continuously, whether it be for homeless, whether it be for animals, whatever it is. The museum, the library, the golf course, all these different services out there, we enjoy them because it's our home. Call to arms, please help us. Help go out there. I walk in the mornings with my wife, and it's actually a trash collection walk around when we walk on the track over at Cielo Grande. She's picking up trash as we go. I know a couple sites, Jim, that we need a couple more trash cans
Deal.
because she carries it too far. But
Abraham.
that's the stuff that we all need. We all need to kind of help with that. And so please help us. And if not, please let us know where we can help you. Jim, thank you.
I want to add one more thing before
Okay,
we get
yes,
up. Believe it or not, we're still the oldest tree city in the state of New Mexico. So you may see it's cut down a tree that's diseased, but we're going to plant 3 to 5 brand new trees to replace that one. So that's going to be ongoing. You'll see us doing that also.
Okay, and we've got one on. We got a question online.
Okay.
They're asking about porta potties.
We'd always
Ask the question. Answer the.
they need more porta potties at Cielo Grande. Well, we kind of share that with our other departments, depending on what sports we're playing at the time. But do understand with COVID and some of the other issues we have going on in the city, we pick up trash and other things every morning. A lot of times when anybody even gets up out of bed. The porta potties are the same thing. Besides the companies that have to clean them, we have to make sure that they're safe every day. So that it does add to some of the problems that we already have. So I understand the porta potties, but we'll do the best we can. But it is a risk also.
Jim, I know right now we have a porta potty on the north end of Cielo Grande and on the west side, I believe.
Yeah.
Is there anything down on the east or the south?
No, and there used to be more prior to COVID and other things that were going on out there. So it might be 1 or 2 right now.
Okay.
I believe it increases when we have some sports out there.
All right. Thank you for that question. Thank you, Jim. Okay, here was another question and more disclosure on how the funds are spent. I used to think, and I've done this job for about 25 years for a few communities and everything. After about my first 3 years of service, I said, I've got governmental finance down to a T. Next day, they proved me wrong. And we have our city councilors up there that have background, great background for finance and everything else, and it's a very challenging thing because Rather than having one checkbook, we have all these different checkbooks, and we have restrictions on certain money and how it can be spent, when it can be spent, and what it does. And I think that's the challenge with letting everybody know how these funds are spent. We started 2 years ago, I think it was right before COVID, we started putting out these videos to kind of help maybe direct that question a little bit better than more disclosure on where the funds are spent, but give me a little bit more specific area where you want to go with that conversation. This one is actually built into a UFO festival question with the youth, and so we will address that conversation there, but it's not rocket science. There's a lot of information out there. Everybody's willing to talk about it to your heart's content, really, to tell you where this money is spent. Every dime that gets spent and every penny that gets spent is approved by the city council, the governing body, at some point, whether it be through the budget, whether it be through the planning all the way through there, the PO system and everything else. So we try to make sure that that information is out there. I think the most difficult thing for our people that are our citizens that may not have that background is how that money moves within the structure that's there. And we have to track exactly how those dollars move through there, because we have to justify to the state. Our budget's approved by the state, and we have to walk it all the way through with that. But I'm going to save some more of this response because I want to show you some of that YouTube channel a little bit right before the end of this conversation. So, but that's where you can find it. That's where you can go out there and find them. We have over 450 videos out there right now of various things, whether it be the city council meetings, all the way through everything that we've been putting together. So, all right, it jumps into the youth. And why is it okay to invest in a UFO festival when we can't invest in our local youth? And then there was a second question on there, more options for our youth. What is being done to drive more activities to Roswell for the youth? All we hear of is people going out of town for activities that should be offered here. Tax dollars going to other places. I appreciate the sentiment with that, and I will show you, I'm going to show you a little bit about it after this fact as well too. And we have Colette Hall up here for the recreation and Juanita Jennings. But I will tell you that use the fix-it form. Let us know what we're missing. And I'm going to show you why, and then I'm going to let our experts talk a little bit more about this. But I put this slide together first off. I shared this document here right off the bat for the fall guide. We have a spring guide, fall guide, summer guide, Tuesday guide, right? No, I'm kidding about the Tuesday guide. But all of our enrichment services, the museum, the zoo, the library, rec and aquatics, all have youth programs. But let's not stop there. I lined up everybody else here. The school district, NIMI, Eastern New Mexico University, Roswell. They all have programs for the youth. All our sports associations, football, baseball, softball, soccer, golf. We have STEM programs for the last 2 years until we got into the COVID pandemic stuff. We had a STEM program out at the Air Center trying to attract youth to aviation related. The museum has had 3 or 4 STEM programs in the museum trying to teach people about creativity and art. We've got the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Boys and Girls Club. We got the New Mexico Youth Challenge Program. We have dance, martial arts, boxing, general fitness, theater, and most of our churches have youth programs. My question, when we're talking about what is there to do for the youth, is what are we missing? And why are we not describing that? I know we had a conversation with staff this week about we have more baseball travel teams than before. Well, a travel team, it's in the name, they're going to travel. They're going to play here, they'll play there. And I think those are the kind of things that we have to see. My question is that what else can we provide? And so I really believe that and you hear about our museums, you hear it about all of the different services that we have. We have a lot going on for us. But some of it gets hidden because we may miss our marketing point, or we may miss our piece there. I think it is just keeping our word, getting it out there, and that's where I guess I'm going to stop. But it's like, what are we missing is my big question. But Colette Hall has joined us for the Rec and Aquatic Center. Colette? What do you have to add?
I'm very proud of everything that this community does for the youth. Okay, I've been doing this, like Joe, I've been doing this for 25 years. Well, I'm sorry, now 26 years. Youth programming, it's very easy to do 0 to 12 years of age. Once they hit 13, that's a hard group to program for. You start doing middle school activities, and they do so much of the schools. And then you start doing, and then once they hit high school, once they start driving, we've almost lost them. So it's a great point to tell us, what are we missing? Because this is a very hard group. The younger ones, we've got it. We've got intro to sports, we've got swimming, we've got all the things you're supposed to have, and we do that. But this is a tough group. Now, we found out a really good program that we've done is junior lifeguarding. Because what does that do? That gets them ready for a job. So we may look at some other things that get you ready for when you are 16, 17, 18, and you can go for these jobs. So that's one thing we're looking at. We also did we had about 60 young people come to a teen night at the pool. Because what do we have? Lifeguards are mostly teens. And so they can get their friends. And they all came, and it was a great place for them to go. And if you've been to the pool, you know we have activities for that age group. We have a climbing wall, we have water basketball, and so it worked out very well. But I'm seriously open for any suggestions, and I'd love for you to tell me.
Skateboarding.
And good one, Juanita. We started skateboarding too, some skateboarding classes, and so we're very excited about that as well.
Anything else to add? Okay. Yes, sir. If you could come up, yeah, I'm sorry.
I asked a question earlier about youth programs, basically, Hike It and Spike It. Gus Macker, basketball, you got basketball courts all over that place. When they were here, look at the age of the groups that participated, 12 to 18-year-olds. There were hundreds of them taking part in those exercises. And that's what I was trying to get at earlier. You know, your golf, you got basketball, you got baseball, you got football, you got all kinds of activities that not only support the community and bring money into the community, but it supports the youth as well.
Yeah, and let me build off of both of those, because Gus Macker and Hike It, Spike It, you know, the difference of the piece from some of the stuff that we've been talking about is that we had a community partner that helped. I mean, Hike It, Spike It was an independent board that partnered with the city in order to get it done. I believe Gus Macker was the same way. And so we love partnerships as well, too. So I think that commitment helps us move those things forward, where when there's community support for something, there's no stopping us, right? I mean, it's...
And if those activities no longer exist, Gus Macker, for instance, create it. Start it here in Roswell. Get it started up here. You know, we can do that here. We got a gold mine sitting here. All we got to do is take advantage of it.
Yep, and I will tell you that this is something that has been talked on and off with the city for a number of years now. Is what we're calling sports tourism. I mean, and Gus Macker and Hike It, Spike It both meet that kind of condition of that. And we know that we have facilities, we know that we have hotel rooms, we know that, I mean, we bring in a tournament with 150, 200 people. The economy is taken well care of, restaurants and everything else. And so I think that's the big thing. We have tried to implement it a couple of times. I think really when we started having the conversation from the vision of the council to implementation, we did hit the pandemic, which kind of pulled us way back. And coming out of that, it's just been a little bit challenging to go that way. We had essentially an employee that was set that their job was to kind of pull some of that together. We ended up losing them as well through the pandemic as well too. He went to a better job, is what he says. So, but it's like, so yeah, trying to do those things is very important.
And all we need to do is get people out there to explore those options. Because I coached golf at New Mexico Military Institute. When I did my recruiting, there's a group here in New Mexico holds tournaments for youth, for 12 to 18-year-olds, high school and all that, just so golf coaches can recruit. Contact them and get them to hold a tournament in Roswell. You got two golf courses and a half.
Yep.
Talk them into having a tournament here, as well as the Nike tournament. It's things like that. It's revenue into the city.
And I know Public Affairs is working on that type of stuff because.
Mike's, there it goes.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'd love to speak to you in just a little bit and connect you with our sports tourism manager. Like Joe said, we had started the program right before the pandemic hit, and then due to the pandemic, we hired the individual back, not the same one, and so we've kind of started then with everything kind of going back and forth, not knowing states open, closed, but we do have that role, and so we're relaunching it, and I'd love to connect you. So I'll get with you in just a minute.
And I think on the tourism and oh, yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Hi. I think one of the concerns that people speak about, including myself, and I hear it from our kids, there's nothing to do in Roswell. And that's a fantastic list up there. And I've had kids, I still do, on travel teams, Boy Scouts, everything. And I see that travel teams are quite expensive. And I don't know the partnership with the city in on it. We used to, at one time, have city teams, because some of the, everybody on high school, they made the team, but there's a whole lot of other kids that didn't make the team, the varsity team or the JV team, and I think that's where we're losing a lot of our youth, and I don't know the answer, but like Main Street Roswell, they have their Christmas thing, and that was what can we do to incorporate? That's a whole, and my kids, I look to participate in just about everything there. But, and it's good, but for those families that can't involve their kids in, I have an Eagle Scout, in the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and so forth. And I think that's the concern when people are saying, the city doesn't have anything.
Right. And, and one I missed up there that I really meant to put up there, and for whatever reason I got interrupted, I think, and missed it. We have the fairgrounds as well, too. We have the ranching. We have all that industry out there of individuals going in there and making crafts, doing everything all the way through there. I think it's just trying to figure out how can we get more of that out, right? And
exactly, because there's a large group of kids, and I think a great indicator is, the age of kids today involved in serious crimes that, we didn't have before. There's, many contributing factors, but at a certain age, and one of you made the point, 13, where do we do with them? What do we do with them? What do we have? Gus Macker, Hike It, Spike It, we've sponsored every year, teams playing in it, and it was a great loss. So COVID may have played a part, but we lost them, and that was a great moneymaker too.
Well, and I know at the rec center, when you talk about the travel teams, those are usually your best of the best that are on these travel teams going around and playing, right? Not a lot of kids are the best of that, but that's where the rec center comes in with the basketball camps and everything. It's open for all. And that's the difference of that, is to teach those skills. And that's why I also added up there the STEM programs also, because I don't mind the athletics as well too. I was an athlete, but we should probably have more congratulations for those math, those English, those history majors as well too, right? I mean, that's important. That's going to set them up for the life. Yep.
Things, if the school doesn't have a dance, where do the kids go to dance? We have a great facility, Cielo Grande. What can we do to provide positive things where kids can gather? They like gathering places, and some of the places they're gathering now, are not the best for our community. We have a serious alcohol, underage drinking, underage drugs in our community. What can we do to give alternatives?
Right.
And I've read that. I got real excited. I want to compliment, your brochure. Awesome things. But I noticed it stops at a certain age again. So after 8th or 10th years old, where do we go? What do we do for that large group? They're not 18, they're not 21. Where do they go? What do they do?
Well, and how do we get those youth that don't have the push from the parents as well too, right? I mean, because those are the ones that I think find very challenging to try to find them, and they're the ones that will normally fall behind and fall into the bad stuff that we're trying to prevent them from doing.
Yeah,
So,
very good point. We have a large, unusual family. We've adopted a lot of children, and many of them come from that background, and that's their greatest thing. Where do we go? What do we do? Hang out at McDonald's, hang out here. We need to really address it, face it, and after 13, what do we do with the kids? That's a large group.
Yeah.
The kids, that family can afford it, they're in travel ball. My kids were in Scouts. I looked at that and I thought, yeah, but how lucky they were. They had parents. A lot of kids are not raised in the same family environment I was fortunate to be raised in, or my kids. So it's a suggestion. It's an issue I think we need to address. Do I have any answers? No.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think our answer too is, I think we start trying a bunch of different things and see what really works. I mean, we can do things from esports too. We haven't really done that. I'm not sure what all is involved in the gaming world, and we can try stuff like that. So I think it's time to try just a bunch of things and see where we're successful.
Counselor?
I just want to mention that Ms. Rodriguez mentioned FFA and 4-H, because
Yes.
those are great programs. And another problem I see is a lot of these programs cost money. But I was a Girl Scout leader, Boy Scout leader, soccer coach, everything, anytime my kids were growing up. Most of these programs, including FFA and 4-H and what you have listed here, they have programs where they can take in kids that don't have the money. So, I mean, there's really no excuse other than maybe transportation, but I'm sure you can get rides. I gave kids rides all the time. So there's activities for kids, and they can be free, so you don't have to pay.
I think with your point, the thing is that we have to find out what the obstacles are, because I believe we have a multitude of activities that'll hit almost every identity of everybody out there. What obstacles are in the way? Like you said, some may not be able to pay their way. How can we find ways to get there? I think those are very good points for that as well too.
And I think if you hit up programs like CASA and let people know about that, and I think as a city council, we talked about Colette, a scholarship program for kids that can't afford some of these activities.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it's and I'm gonna say it at this point as well too, is that what I want to caution everybody: don't leave it on the city's back to do it. It's the community that's important for this. The city is happy to partner, happy to be at the table with everybody to get that done. But if we're losing the community behind it, or we think we know better than the community, we're going to miss a point of all of this as well too. And I think there was two really great programs that were brought out on Tuesday for the animals, the strays that are the sheltered animals. I think one was a swimming for them to take them out and just get them in the water a little bit, show somebody still cares about them. I don't have enough employees to do it myself. Bring those ideas in. Help us do that. We got a really good volunteer system now with Kathy Lay and everything. Come on out. Let's find a way to get this thing done. So with that, I'm going to keep moving, because I know we're running a little bit over an hour right now, and I want to get to everybody's things, at least touching on most of them. City organization. We had some conversation about city employees receiving complimentary memberships, Roswell city employees having free access. I talked a little bit of this about the city council. You know, we have a very low disposable income for our community as a whole. And the good thing about our city employees is that they're full-time jobs, they get insurance, and they get retirement. That's more than some of our public members get out there. I want to be very careful of that, but what I had told the council was I want to make sure that we're giving a good wage rather than free services. We had, at one point in time in the blue-collar group, we had actually the ability for a discount for golf. I have over 90 employees in that department. Only 4 individuals took benefit of that. I have a longevity program that if you stay and work with us, you get more money year after year after year. That affects all 90 of them. That's my point that I'm trying to make, is that I don't know if we can do that, and I really, when all of our taxpayers are supporting our services and everything, I want to be very conscious of the responsibilities of our city employees as well. And so that's the challenge we have with that. The last item on there was responsiveness of our city leaders. Need a set policy for communicating with and responding to citizens. And it really depends on which city leaders you're talking about. I will tell you that from the mayor down, the door is open. And I mean, the mayor is constantly meeting with individuals in City Hall about one thing or another. Every one of the city councilors I know are getting phone calls at night, weekends, all of that. Those of you that have the red phone, to some of them, you can get to call them very quickly. City staff is the same way. So I guess when we talk about this and the responsiveness of city leaders, when it gets into the staff, we have customer service training. We have a lot of different things. It doesn't always take. We always have some issue. There gets to be personality quirks between 2 individuals, whether it be the citizen or an employee, or even employee to employee. So this is something that we work on constantly to try to get there. So we do have some policies, but these elected officials are yours, and they are responsive to you. And so please make sure that you're using them. I always kind of kid with the elected officials. It's like, congratulations, you won, and now they walk off because it's like, you got it. But they never get the correspondence. They never get the input back and forth of saying, this is what I believe in for this item. This is what I do. And some do it a little better than others, but please contact them. Even if you didn't elect them, they're your representative, and they will listen to you. I'll guarantee it. And that goes all the way through staff. We work very hard to try to get everybody to talk with the public and make sure that we can understand. I think our biggest challenge with staff is that we have all these important things to get done, and we forget to listen. And when we forget to listen, we forget to hear what the issue is. And I think those are the things that we take very seriously. Moving on, I'm not going to jump into this too much, but I wanted to just kind of bring it up because so you can see these questions. We do have community development coming up very soon in one of the future forums, so I won't go into this one for much detail. We'll do the ones that I don't have meetings for. But what are the plans for Roswell's unique historic Main Street of evolution, encouraging loft development downtown so we can have a vibrant downtown again? And then, of course, the others are based upon dilapidated, burned down, neglected properties and what can be done to speed up the process. We're going to go into a lot more detail on this when we get into the community development piece. And so I won't talk much on that, but I will say that we've partnered with the chambers, partnered with the EDC for the downtown. We have facade program grants. We have what's called the ROAR program that will help take care of other conditions of the older buildings that no longer meet code, like fire suppression, ADA accessibility. That stuff is out there. We just need to make sure that we keep talking with that. And again, it's all about partnerships as well, too, because we don't own the buildings. All we can do is help incentivize something to occur. And then, of course, the speeding up the process, I wish we could for a lot of that. It is a 6-month ordeal when we're trying to get somebody else to take care of their property. And they're given a lot of opportunity to fix those things. Again, if you know, like this burned down abandoned property located on Blandon, Virginia, use the fix-it form to remind us. We will make sure that gets looked at, and I'll guarantee you somebody's already looking at that one because we actually have a corner on that. I'm not going to talk a lot on this, but I wanted to make sure you knew that this was crime and theft in residential areas and crime prevention. I do know that Chief Smith has been putting out some correspondence in order to make sure that everybody kind of sees what's going on. I think the PD does a very good job of warning people about the ne'er-do-wells that are trying to abuse our residents and everything. And we'll have a really good conversation on crime at a later date. Okay, I'm going to go through this list, and then if we still have a little bit of time, I'll show you the website and everything very quickly. But if I can, could you come up on the Spring River Golf and give me a little bit more detail now as to what you want to talk about for the golf course? For those of you that may not know, we took over the golf course. We ended the contract. The contract termed out with our current pro. So as of January 1, the city took over the pro shop as well as the maintenance of the grounds. So if you could share a little bit more, thank you.
Speaking on behalf of many of us, all of us, really, who are paid members of Nancy Lopez Spring River Golf Course, non-members, visitors to the area who come to play, there seems to be a wide margin of difference to what was discussed and put forth verbally by the city about improvements to be made at Spring River and what has actually been accomplished. The number one issue is gross understaffing. All of your other services are fully staffed. Spring River Golf Course is not because of any lack of applicants, but because the decision to fill those positions required to fully staff the maintenance department has not been made. Instead, our golf course is understaffed by expecting 4 landscapers to do the work of 10. We have a total crew of 6 people in the maintenance department over there, and four guys who work maintenance, and then you have your maintenance superintendent and his assistant. Those 4 guys are not always there. We have one out right now. I think that's out for surgery. And then the COVID had one out for a week. I have a few years of experience working in maintenance at golf courses, and that's my experience is what I'm speaking to. I do know what it takes to maintain a golf course of this size. And minimum staff is 10. We have 4. To keep the maintenance of that golf course going, 12 would be better. But, they could do with 10. Well, we got 4. It may be true that other types of businesses, might be able to get away with a small crew like that, but not so true with this one. As I recall, from the meeting that was called by the city, around the first year, it is a standing room crowd only because we all wanted to know what was happening in this transition, and we heard a lot. We had a lot of promises. The city was to increase the budget. As I recall, about over $1 million over what it is. The projected income was expected to improve because the city was taking over the management, and the former manager partner was no longer part of the equation. Improvements would be made, which in turn would attract more golfers, more membership. And I also recall the mention of a grant, something in the neighborhood of $500,000 that somehow never appeared, which was supposed to help us take care of some of the disrepair, the cart paths, the crumbling cart paths, and the greens that are in desperate need to be repaired, and still need that. It has nothing been done. The maintenance department is working as fast as it can, and it's not keeping up. Just getting the grass cut is a major undertaking at a golf course. And when you take one guy off of a machine to do something that's necessary, just even something small and trivial like the ball washers, or filling a pothole here and there, you get behind on the cutting. The potential of Nancy Lopez Spring River Golf Course is not being realized because the decisions being made are not aligned to the needs of the course. They should be addressed. The maintenance superintendent, who is by all accounts one of the best in the industry, The city is expecting him to do more with less, and what you're expecting him to do is impossible with what he has to work with. I'm wondering, as far as the city council, how many of the city council are golfers? How many of them have actually taken a tour with the managers at the golf course and discuss what needs to be done? Anyone who plays at this golf course, anyone who plays golf at Spring River can see what is done and what is not done. Four people on mowers can barely keep up with the growth. Grooming, the course, you've got watering, you've got weed eating, repairing the irrigation equipment, you've got pest control, fertilizing, seeding, greens, keeping the tree maintenance, and more. That's what it takes. 4 guys can't do it. I think your assistant went out, last week, and I think took a little tour of the golf course with the manager, with the pro shop, and he saw what some of the things needed to be done. He was blown away by how bad some of the areas are because they don't have the people to do anything. So that's the reason. Then I think we were able to get somebody out there from Parks and Recreation to help him with the weed eating because that needed to be done.
Yep.
And the course looks beautiful from the sidelines. Driving by, you might think that wow, this is a beautiful course. And it is from a distance. The reality is that the understaffing the maintenance department, the city has not and is not following through on what it promised when it took over the management. And what really could be the best golf course in southeastern New Mexico isn't and never will be unless it's properly staffed. Once again, you are wasting the talents of one of the best maintenance supervisors and superintendents in the business by expecting him to do a job with less than half the manpower necessary to make this course number 1. We'd kind of like to know what happened to the proposed money that was supposed to increase the budget, and
I'll try to address all these
and the
items.
grant that didn't happen, and all these things that didn't happen because obviously the money didn't show up. But I don't understand why we would have such a big meeting at the first year, and all these promises were made, none of this materialized, and we want to have faith in what our politicians and our city people tell us. But if they can't follow through, then how can we trust what they say?
All right. Let me respond to those as well too, and then we'll keep moving on as well too. So the first part I'm troubled with is that I'm hearing from you that we're understaffed out there, that we're having problems. Our superintendent should be talking to us about what those needs are as well too. This last week we took, because underneath parks, we placed 17 temporary type positions under parks in order to be used at the cemetery, at the golf course as needed in order to get there. And that's why they went out there and trimmed around the trees, because there wasn't no time for that. We had a piece of equipment break down, one of our big fairway mowers. Over the last, I think 2 weeks ago now, or maybe 3 now, I think. And it's a $100,000 piece of equipment that broke down, and that put us behind as well too. We also found that we had our golf crew actually helping with a little bit across the road from Cielo Grande. We actually asked that to stop because we want the ones that we have out there. I can't stop people from getting sick from COVID. I can't stop people from that, but that's why we have those temporary employees to backfill that. I would hope that our staff would actually move those chips around on the table. If it gets to me, it's too late, just like you coming in and talking to me as well.
It's been all year. They've been putting up this stuff with this, since the first of the year.
Yep.
And, working these guys half to death and not getting ahead.
When we went through our budget conversations, most of the conversation was on how many we needed for the pro shop. in our budget. I mean, so, and I'm not taking it any farther than that, because I want to go back and find out exactly why we're having trouble with those things. So that's my responsibility. As far as the budget is set, and it is set at least twice as much. I believe it's right, $1.2 million.
So why is the holdup on staffing? You know, if you need full-time people at the golf course, the temps, that's not really
Let me just leave it at this. So the department itself does the interviews of the employees. So we put out an all-call saying we have these positions open. The department will do the interviews of those employees, and they do what's called a PAF form, a personnel form. And so the personnel action form, I believe, is what PAF is. That comes through, it gets approved. I don't do interviews for those positions. I sign off saying you followed all the procedures through HR and everything to get those hired. Once that form is done, we put them in. They start on essentially the next Thursday or the next Friday, whenever the system works, whether it be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or whatever that employee needs to come on board. That's the way that process works. And so if I don't have a PAF form crossing my desk, there's nothing for me to sign.
I understand that they pretty much refused to hire anybody for some reason.
Then there's other issues then if they're not hiring.
Well, yeah, you should know about that. If you don't, now you do.
And now I do, yes, sir, and I appreciate that. So knowing that is really good. I will tell you that within the structure of our reviews of the budget and everything, the income is moving along. Everything's coming forward with where it's at. The things that we did not know, we know. And the idea was to try to get through this one and then move into a better budget the next time around. So
some of the issues pose a possibility of a large liability to the city, especially some of the crumbling cart paths and some of the places that are dashingly dangerous. I know that Dr. Willis actually got injured from being jogged in a cart going over a pothole, and he cut his head.
Yep.
I mean, and that's probably not an isolated thing. I mean, it's we used to think that NIMI was so rough, and their fairways were so rough, and it'd jar your eye teeth, going up the fairway because of the gophers. But this is a problem over there too.
I wrote your conditions down and everything. I want to touch on the grant, but then we're going to keep moving. I got other people that are saying, can I get to my item too? But we will address that, and we will make sure. I'm assuming you play golf almost every day?
A few times a week.
We will find you then. On the grant. So the grant is never guaranteed. The grant was, we went to the state and asked for funding for that purpose out there at the golf course. Our project was not chosen. And that happens all the time. We get approximately $3 million from the state at any given time on any of the activities that we have. I will tell you that the legislature loves to take care of infrastructure, water, sewer, streets, and all of that. These projects like this, we're lucky when they believe in them, like the golf course, the museum, the zoo, and all those different pieces as well too. But they enjoy the infrastructure because it affects a larger population. That's the only thing I can say about that.
Well,
we will keep applying for that.
You know that the golf course is a really good source of income for the city of Roswell. You make this golf course shine, and you're going to see more people coming in.
And we saw some of that during the UFO festival as well too. With Glow Golf and everything else, all that helped bring in a different group of golfers as well too. So, but yeah, were you going to add something to that? I better let you do that because
to add to it.
we didn't sign.
Besides what Jim said, and a lot of the people that I've spoke with that golf out there, I've been golfing there since 1963, when it wasn't even designed like it is now. But I'm embarrassed with the restrooms. I'm embarrassed with the porta potty. Like Jim said, I did cut my head on the cart because I fell in one of those 1 foot holes in the cart path, and I had a large laceration to my forehead, and that needs to be addressed. The greens are awful. I mean, it's been like that for 5 years, and it hasn't been addressed. The bathrooms over on 12 and 13, if you go inside them, they're filthy, they're dirty, they stink, they overflow. They just had an overflow inside the pro shop just 2 days ago when we were there, and now you guys had a flood there the other day because the main water broke. So a lot of these issues create a lot of problems for us regular golfers that are retired that depend on the ability to go out there. The tree limbs falling all over the place, not being addressed. The sand traps are dirt. They're not sand traps, they're dirt, and they get wet, and you can't hit out of them. And it's embarrassing to be able to see such a beautiful course and know what it's developed over since 1963 and how it's happened. I mean, we had great tournaments. Ron Doan was an example. He was a patient of mine, and we had fantastic tournaments. Yeah. And now the golf carts don't work. The golf steering mechanisms don't work. They're broken down. There's just so many issues, and unless the city council and yourself come out where we can walk you around and show you these things, there's broken pipes all the time. The course, just water leaking everywhere, and it's continued year after year after year. And we were excited about the city taking this over and being able to address these issues, because it does host a lot of people, and it is a big part of the retirees' likes that they really enjoy doing.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, everybody keeps going.
Sure, I understand.
But, so let me ask you one question for all of you. Have you addressed this with Eric Chavez out there?
Yes.
And not gotten a good response? I'm assuming that's why you're here.
That's one reason why we're here.
Okay, all right. And of course, Mr. Burris, and then all the
original meeting that we had at the beginning of the year of all of the things that were told that were going to be done.
Yep. Okay.
Not being done.
Now, I will tell you as well, and then I'm going to stop this one because I've got a lot of work I need to do on this in order to help you and everything, is that I've been getting other reports that things are better out there too. I mean, so just so you know that, I mean, we get all different kinds of opinions and everything else, and I'm getting those as well too. I will walk through that. What I'm going to ask you all to do, fix it for them. Put it in. Let me know exactly what it's done. They are supposed to be out there checking all those holes in the greens and everything else, and if they're not, if we identify it directly out, what that does is it gives me a digital image of what you just asked them to do.
Okay.
That would help me out considerably because I can see those work orders and get them taken care of. If for whatever reason, whatever the reason is, that it didn't get done for that. But thank you. I've got all those listed down there. I'm sorry that I'm going to keep going, but
I understand.
Okay.
Just one other thing. I mean, 3 days ago I went out there. There was no golf balls in the pro shop, none to be sold, and that's just not acceptable. The entire rack was empty.
Okay.
And you're taking over the pro shop.
Yeah.
So that needs to be addressed.
Is it because the golfers can't hit straight, or?
Not this golfer.
I'm kidding. I'm sorry. But, okay.
And then the cart, the girl that's
right.
supposed to be driving the cart 2 times a week, no show. A week off. 2 times, nothing there. That's got to be fixed to where we have a regular person that we can depend on out there.
I would agree, and we'll handcuff them onto the cart from now on. So, because we keep losing them, it's like, oh my goodness. All right, I'm going to keep going. I apologize. I'm going to run through these very quickly, just for everybody's sake, and then we will bring them back for additional conversation. So, if it was your item, then we're going to talk about it a little bit differently. So, sign ordinance. We updated the sign ordinance. It now allows for signs, election, political, whatever type of signs to be placed in parkways, as long as it doesn't interfere with traffic or any health and safety issues. That the old ordinance did not allow for that. And so we have very wide parkways in the downtown area and the historic area that the sign ordinance says you could not place signs there. And so what my staff started doing was ignoring that, and it's only good to ignore it until somebody complains. And then we have to enforce that law and such. So we ended up saying that with the update of the sign ordinance, what the council did, The parkways for the contiguous property owner can be utilized for signs. City property that's contiguous will not be utilized for signs, for any type of signage, unless it's a program for like, the adult center or something of that nature. So those are the changes in the sign ordinance. Tom, I don't know if there's anything else to add to that, but those are the big points of how we've amended the sign ordinance.
Mr. Manager, Mayor, councilors, fellow citizens, first of all, thanks for spending your time here listening. I think we ought, first of all, we ought to have a format at this where we were not abducted and have to listen for 30 minutes to one subject. I think the format should be stricken or should be adopted. Here's some articles. If anybody would like to see it, it's an article from a man that was here from Israel, international reporter, and he interviewed me during the UFO festival. And I asked him, I said, I collect this stuff, will you send it to me? And he sent me his article, and that's what this article is. And on page 11 of this article, there's a photo of a building that's right behind the UFO McDonald's, which is on West 8th Street. I live 2 blocks from that building. And that building was spot zoned as a professional office. Then the city went in and allowed a commercial business to go in there. And now it's a junk store. And it's right next to one of our biggest tourist attractions. And it's right next to my neighborhood. And I don't think that we should allow spot zoning because it's detrimental to our community. Now we have a sign ordinance. Now I can drive around town and I can look at, there's all kinds of signs that have been, buildings that are dilapidated, the building's gone. The sign, you can see signs on gas stations on North Main all the way to Vaughan. We need to get rid of all the junk signs so we clean up our city. We should enforce the code. I have been cited because I put a political sign in my front yard. And I talked to the city manager, and I asked him about that. I have been cited for it, and some of my neighbors were. And I object to that, because it wasn't a level playing field. The city now allows 4x8 billboards in front yards. I think it's wrong. The UFO building, the UFO McDonald's, the sign, on page 11 in here, which is an international magazine, there's a F. Biden sign right next to McDonald's, one of our biggest tourist attractions where kids go there all the time. There's a F. Biden sign in the 300 or 3,000 block of North Garden. I thought that you had to get rid of political signs after a certain amount of time. It doesn't look like we have to. Maybe this ordinance has been changed, but I don't see it. There's a lot of disrepair of signs. They need to be fixed. Timely removal. We need enforcement. We allow signs in the right of way. We'll make it the same for everybody, not just one candidate or one team of candidates. Public property. The city has allowed political signs on city property. I object to that. I don't think city political signs or any signs should be allowed on public property. I don't know. I didn't see when this sign ordinance was vetted. The city even allowed political signs to be placed in City Hall right next to a polling station. Violation of state law, and I think we need to change that. Once again, thanks for listening, but I would ask the city council in our community to enforce the sign ordinance so we don't have all these signs, beer signs on every building downtown. It's very unattractive. One of our city councilors even put a political sign right in the middle of her sidewalk in front of her property downtown. Put it in there with screwdrivers, stuck it in the middle of the sidewalk. It obstructs traffic, and the traffic that it's obstructing our tourists, and we don't need that. We need to clean up our city so it's beautiful, so when people come here, they leave with a good taste. Because what I saw in this article, the F Biden stuff, I mean, I don't care if you don't like Biden, that's your prerogative. But we shouldn't allow that to have it next to in our community where everybody has to look at it. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Tom. Yep. And the sign ordinance was amended so that signs cannot be placed on city property. And that will be enforced from here forward. It changed in 2020. Oh, yeah.
So I think the public needs to understand, during the last 2 elections, a lot of people were putting up signs without the property owner's permission.
Correct.
I had a lot of complaints on all, on all the races, that people were doing that, and then when they said, I told them, well, you can take it down, they said, no, we were told we were not allowed to take it down, because the sign ordinance says they can put it in the easement. So the property owners need to understand they have that right to take those signs down.
Yes, thank you, Counselor, because that is true. When we reset this up, it is the contiguous property owner that has the right for that. If you're in a corner lot, you have to also have the corner. As long as it does not create a health or safety problem, then we're all good with that as well too. And I'm hoping that'll help. I think the hard ones are going to be now the empty properties that people may or may not know who the owner is, and so. But the owner has every right to remove any sign that is placed on that contiguous property or their property, and they're protected. So thank you. Moving on really quickly, the special events. Do we know what that one was about? Okay, all right. So we talked a little bit about Hike It, Spike It. Repairs to the library. Thank you for hanging in there. Where we're at right now with the repairs of the library, we have a roof that was repaired that's leaking still. We have some other issues out there. The council is aware of that. We have actually placed about 3 items on the ICIP, which is the grant program with the state, to try to get money from them. We are prepared, if we don't receive the assistance, to do it ourselves. And so all of those, they've been all listed out exactly what the issues are right now, and we're tackling them in that way. I think that's the challenge we have, like with the golf course, is that we went after grant money, but we did not come back because the council did not place it into the program where we could take some of our own money for that. But we did for the library. Economic development, we talked a little bit about that. We have actually another forum on that that we're going to cover. Mike Espiritu is here, our executive director, our president of the Economic Development Corporation, and we're going to make a very good effort to talk about economic development, talk about the good things that are happening and the things that we hope to happen and what everybody's working on. The border problems in Roswell. I think we'll talk a little bit more about that during the public safety piece and crime and all of that different pieces. I will tell you that as far as I know, from the Chavez County Sheriff's Office to Roswell, we're not hearing that the impact is there. We know that there's probably a flow through and everything that comes up through here, but we're not seeing an undue influence from the border in the city directly. And I don't know, mayor, councilors, nod or shake. You're not hearing much either, are you? Okay, yeah, so we do keep an eye out for that kind of stuff, but it hasn't been any kind of an issue. Are residents responsible for weeds behind their house or alley? Quick answer is yes, if it's up against the property. The city will go through, street department actually does everything. It's essentially the gravel area, and we will make sure that the gravel, the potholes and everything are taken care of. Everything up against the fences, about probably 1 foot to 2 foot out. We appreciate it when the neighbor or the contiguous property owner takes care of that, because that type of equipment is very small and very costly for us to move through. So like in my alley, I take care of that grass area about 2.5 foot out from the fence. One, because I don't want city equipment up against my fence either, because sometimes things happen. Really quickly, who sets the budget and who administers the funds? The budget is set by the city council. It is a arduous process in order to walk through the budget. They look at everything to make sure that it is accounted for, make sure it is in the proper place. I think the most challenging thing for us is when we're trying to set our revenue and trying to determine how much money we will make throughout the year from gross receipts tax and everything. This council has done the same thing that previous councils have done, very conservative with that number. We would rather err on the side of having too much money that could put into the next year's budget than not enough money to finish out the year. And so the administering of the funds, once that budget is approved, it falls underneath my umbrella in order to direct staff. But every department head is responsible for their budget. They're all professionals of their own right in order to take care of their things. And so they will administer the funds. The city council has set certain criteria where they get noticed if it's too large of a purchase, if it's a movement of money from one line item to another that's increased and everything else. And so that's where we go with that. The disc golf course equipment replaced. I will start with fix it for him again. Let us know which equipment. I think that Mr. Burris, now as he's aware of this, if he hasn't heard it before, he will make sure an inspection gets done of that disc golf course, and we will fix whatever the pieces are that are broken and not working right. All right. I am not going to take your time, but I want to point your direction. If everybody can kind of remember the YouTube channel, there are 495 videos out there, everything from the city council meetings. If you just like walking through our city council meetings again, there's a lot of detail in them. But we also have everything out there from Money Matters. So how does the Air Center money move? How does lodgers tax work? How does all these different funds are out there? We'll be updating those videos as we walk through and as the council's vision changes how those things are spent. You'll see department spotlights out there as far as like the cemetery, the trees, everything is out there. If there's something that you want us to do a video on so that you can at least see more about what's happening, you know what you can use? The Fix It form. Just let us know. All right. And then here, don't wait for these meetings. I'm sorry for the golf course and having them come out, having that whole page of information. I'm available. My staff is available. We will make it, so don't wait. Send us your questions, comments. Use the Fix It form. There's our website, an email, a phone call to the mayor, the governing body, city manager, and staff. We're here to help. Provide as much information as you can. I think that's one of our biggest challenges. If we know why you're calling and everything, we get to direct it a lot faster and we can take care of it a lot quicker. And if you wish to receive a spot response, because you can do it anonymously on Fix It form, please leave your name. We won't hold you accountable for what you turned in. We want to know what it is so we can get back to you so that at least you know that we took care of it. I think at times we have certain laws out there that we cannot enforce or certain expectations of the law we cannot enforce. So that takes a code change or something like that. And so that's important to understand. We're right at the end. I'm going to remind everybody we have, what's that? When will the chief speak? Okay. And that one will be addressed in the, we're gonna probably change the schedule around. So I'm only gonna give you the next two that are coming up because I want the chief to speak probably either before the end of this year or into the next. And if I have to add another public forum, I will. So in this format for that, we have September 20th, we'll be doing community development. October 18th, we'll be talking about foundations and their roles. January 17th, we'll do economic development. February 21, homeless situation. March 21, Hispano Chamber Library Partnership. And then we have the all-ward general topic meeting at the end in April. If I have to, we will throw in one of the crime itself or the public safety one itself because it's a very important issue that affects a lot of our neighborhoods and everything. So we'll add an additional one in there for that purpose. We'll get the chief, we'll get both chiefs out, possibly emergency communications and everything. They're a fantastic bunch. So, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if there's anything else to add unless you want to share a little bit before we end.
You know, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I can turn around, I can tell you one thing I think we need to do. We need to figure out how to get kids to fish out at the fish pond at the zoo. I mean, you know what? That's the best place in the world. And if we could just get that, the game department to keep stocking it and put it for kids only, one of the best things we could do. But thank you all for coming and really call us what you have, and we'll see. We've got some tough things going. We've got some economic issues that we really want to try to get done so we can look for jobs, and more jobs. That's what we need in Roswell more than anything else is jobs. And, you got to help us. We've got to work on our health care. Our health care is something that we have to work on getting doctors here. So, if you can, let us know so we can see where we can go and what we can get done. But let's try to keep it positive and keep it going. And I think there's one thing that always is true, that the library out of all places ought to always work, because that's the one place where you never have hardly any trouble except leaks. So, and the books don't do well there. So, but thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Joe.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. We're going to end there. Don't be a stranger. Please hit us up. Let us know how we can help. We will try to keep moving with all this information and everything. Well, if we gather in enough, we'll put out a report. Have no problem with putting out that information any way we can in order to help you understand how to work with us as well too. So thank you. Please take some of the cookies because I don't need any more. And but thank you again for coming.